Good morning and welcome to the 2020 DVRC's 9th annual but first virtual Leadership and Awards program. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Brian Colon. I get to serve as your state auditor, but it is a privilege for me to be your MC today for this very, very special event. We've got a great program planned for you and I'm glad you're here. This particular event gives us an opportunity during Domestic Violence Awareness Month to be able to acknowledge the critical need we have in our community for domestic violence programs, services, and help for our community. As a member of the business community and a leader in New Mexico's governmental landscape, I can assure you that you are an integral part of that important work. You are a bridge that covers the gap between this amazing organization, the DVRC, and Albuquerque's business professionals. I hope you'll consider giving today to this very important organization that serves a very deep need in New Mexico. In addition to an exciting keynote on leadership, today we'll also recognize the great work that's being done in this Domestic Violence Resource Center and in our community to address the issue of domestic violence. We've got some outstanding community leaders who've made a positive impact, and their voice is used every day to lift up our community, to take people from being survivors to thrivers. They've made significant contributions on improving our community. I want to say thank you to our sponsors today. Events like this are made only possible because of sponsors like them. These folks in our community support us each and every step of the way for the DVRC. We hope you'll consider that when you're in our community, saying thanks. Say mil gracias a todos of these folks here in the community. And I want to say thank you to the following sponsors. All right, and now you get to hear from the Executive Director of the Domestic Violence Resource Center, Vince Galbiati, and he's going to say a few words about the important work of DVRC.
Brian, thank you for that very kind introduction. DVRC has been part of the fabric of Albuquerque's community since 1996, helping victims with essential services such as shelter, food, clothing, and mostly protection from their abusers. We've grown into a dynamic organization offering advocacy, case management, counseling, and education to thousands and thousands of victims every year. DVRC's vision is to create a social culture that is going to be intolerant of domestic violence. Nobody should be hurt. Nobody should be attacked. And our community should not tolerate those who do. Our mission is very simple. It is to empower victims to become survivors and thrivers. And we do this by intervening when abuse occurs and preventing abuse from happening in the first place and helping victims recover their lives and their independence and their dignity after they've suffered at the hands of their offenders. I would like to thank our amazing board of directors, advocates, case managers, counselors, and educators who work relentlessly and tirelessly to help those who are most vulnerable. And I'd like to thank you, the community of supporters who make our work possible. Together, we can end domestic violence. Please welcome back Brian Colon to introduce this year's Poet Laureate.
Michelle Otero is the former Poet Laureate of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and the author of Malinche's Daughter. Her poetry collection, Bosque, is forthcoming from the University of New Mexico Press. Her work has appeared or is forthcoming on the Modern Love podcast, NPR's Code Switch, and in the New Mexico Magazine. She's also going to appear in Shenandoah and the Best of Brevity anthology. Originally from Deming, New Mexico, Luna County, that's fast ducks and pure water, she holds a BA in history from Harvard College and an MFA in creative writing from Vermont College. She's also a member of Macondo's Writers Workshop and a founding member of Albuquerque's Tiasso Artists Collective. She is amazing. She's our former poet laureate, Michelle Otero.
Early warning system. Female hurricanes kill more people than male storms. We don't take her seriously, no matter the warning. Some migratory bird species feeling a drop in barometric pressure that precedes a storm take flight before landfall. I am from dry land, Chihuahuan desert. From here, it's easy to wonder why anyone would build and rebuild beneath a sky determined to kill. Those splinters were palms, the way a tooth was once a girl. Alejandra, Elsa, Iris, Coral. It is always the women who warn of danger. Sometimes they use words. On codices of a matl hidden away, Mexica scribes painted a shrieking woman in red and black ink. Olga, Noraima, Mayela, Anabel. Until 1979, all hurricanes were women. Unpredictable creatures, they flirted with coastlines, whipped temperamental winds. Roxy Bolton fought for women, arbitrary bearers of disaster. Perhaps she knew, as we know, men's calamity. The canary, a non-migratory bird species, shelters in place. And what of this? Women have always known men as storms. Maria Perla, Maria Magdalena, Maria de los Angeles, Maria Isabel. My children, the shrieking woman called in the months before the ships arrived, where will you go? What will become of you? Spanish sailors returning from the New World first introduced the canary to Europe in the 17th century. In Ciudad Juarez, far from coastal water since 1993, more than 1,000 women and girls murdered or disappeared. Unidentified woman, unidentified woman, unidentified woman, unidentified girl. Where water can't be contained, where rivers overtake streets and highways, Llorona, who killed her own babies por desesperación, por susto, must not know where to cry. Here on dry land, the river is a sandbar, a border wall, fissured tracks, the Rio Grande, a dirty trickle. To enable flight at high altitudes, the canary stores air in extra sacs and takes in oxygen on both the inhale and the exhale. This quality makes it vulnerable to airborne poisons. Alma, Claudia, Sagrario, Silvia. In coal mines, canaries tested air quality, an early warning system. A silent canary signaled to miners the air was not safe to breathe. We don't listen. 1,000 Juarez girls become 18 addicts executed in rehab on a Wednesday night, become a bag of heads in Morelia, become 43 students missing in Iguala, become 60,000 murders, 20,000 disappearances in 6 years. Canaries in coal mines gave way to electronic air sensors. Miners said they missed the companionship, the song. It turns out the study on male and female storms was debunked. Besides Sandy, women aren't any deadlier than men. What of a siren? She can throw a sailor off course, warn land dwellers to seek higher ground. She can fall silent, a canary in a mine, a girl sick or missing or gone. I want to thank you all for attending today and supporting the work of the Domestic Violence Resource Center. My last poem really speaks to how if we don't take care of a segment of our society, eventually that lack of care spills over to other parts of our society as well. So I just want to drive home the message that domestic violence affects all of us, whether it happens in our home or not. It is a community problem and it requires community solutions. So thank you all so much for your support. My next poem and my last poem is written for the next generation, an offering to my teenage stepdaughter and for all the girls. May your world be vast. May you giggle alongside the spring where we camped every summer. May you remember the burst of baby grasshoppers as we broke through meadow, the hornet's nest your uncle caught in a paper bag and threw into fire. May you remember Milky Way gauze on our faces, coyotes calling from the center of the earth. May you remember which way is east. May the rain that paints adobe walls be a blessing and dust a reminder of who we are. May you muddy your toes in spring, and may spring be enough. May it fill your cup enough to share. May this land of our ancestors, yes, ours, be enough. May it whisper over and over, as much as you need, as much as you want. You are enough. You are enough. You are more than enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle Otero. We appreciate your help, your support, and your advocacy. Now I have the privilege of introducing our keynote speaker for today's tremendous event, and it is Dean Norris. He's not a stranger to any New Mexican, but let me tell you, he is not just an American actor, but he is an honorary New Mexican. He's best known for portraying DEA agent Hank Schrader on the amazing AMC series Breaking Bad, and town selectman James Big Jim Rennie on the CBS series Under the Dome. Norris is a graduate of Harvard College also and attended the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. As an advocate speaking out against domestic violence, DVRC is extremely honored, proud, and grateful to have Dean Norris as our keynote speaker for this year's event. Dean, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Hello, New Mexico. I'm Dean Norris. Some of you may know me as ASAC Hank Schrader from the awesome show Breaking Bad. I've been invited here to talk a little bit about myself and my career and the school that I started, and an effort to entertain you a little bit and to hopefully inspire you and motivate you to help a really, really awesome cause, the Domestic Violence Resource Center of New Mexico. It's quarantine time, so that's why we're obviously doing this virtually. I am on location in New Orleans doing a show called Claws, and I socially distanced in my RV. So here I am. It's the best I got, but I hope you put up with us and listen to a little bit of my story. And please think about what you can do to help donate to this very, very worthy cause. My dad, he had a band, kind of like your typical, he's a wedding band guy, and his family he literally sang for his supper on the streets of Chicago back in the 1930s. He had a real tough family life, but they were all musicians. So I kind of thought I would grow up to be a musician in a band. I did play guitar and sang. It became clear to me in high school that I wasn't going to make a living doing that. So the cousin of that was acting, and I started at 5 years old in the church plays, and started. And I lived in South Bend, so it was close to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, if they needed a young actor in a play, would call me, and I did Shakespeare. I was in Richard III. I was a young prince, and I had to learn Shakespeare at like 7 years old. But I remember asking, or people asking me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And at 5 years old, my answer was be an actor. So it was just somehow always within me. I happened to get an offer to go to Harvard University. And I remember my parents at the time thinking, oh my God, that's fantastic. How can we pay for it? I said, well, Harvard actually pays for it. So I went there, studied, got 4 years of college in, and it became time to make a choice. Would I follow my passion going into acting? Or would I take this great blessing I got having a Harvard education when neither of my parents had gone to college, had the chance to become an investment banker or a management consultant firm on Wall Street? Because they loved Harvard people. They came in and they recruited. And I had a real tough dilemma because my parents really didn't have a lot of money. And here's my chance to kind of help my family improve their lot in life. And yet I was contemplating throwing that away to become an actor. But, and they weren't giving me the pressure. I was putting the pressure on myself because I really wanted to help out my family. And somehow I made the decision to pursue it. And investment banks at the time would fly you down to New York City on their dime. They would pay for the hotel, pay for the airline. So I would get on a suit, cheap suit at the time, and I would fly down and meet with investment bankers in the morning, have breakfast or lunch, and chit chat about how much I wanted to become an investment banker for their firm. And then I would switch into my blue jeans and t-shirts and run out and audition in New York City. And I did this for several months, and got a little bit of a feeling that I think I maybe could make it in the business. When ended up going to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, and that was it. That was the big choice I had to make. Was I going to let go of the investment banking and assure a route to making good amounts of money, or was I going to try this crazy idea of becoming an actor? So I did that. I came back from Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. They also paid for it, by the way. There was a scholarship for Americans. And I ended up in Los Angeles, sleeping on a couch, not my own room, a couch for $200 a month. I had my suitcase and a couch. And I got a job as a waiter. I lied that I had experience and got this job. And I remember about 6 months later of living on a couch and making a waiter salary, I auditioned for Lethal Weapon 2. And that was a big movie at the time. And I went in and met the guy, Dick Donner, who I've talked to recently, and told him to give me my start. And the meeting basically ended up, he said, you know what? You look like a cop. I think we're going to hire you. Now, that was the start of a long line of cop roles for me. But I was literally waiting tables at the Hamburger Hamlet in Westwood. And I get a call from my agent. And they say, you got the job. I'm like, what? What does that mean? They're like, you got the job. And I was like, are you sure? And it was like 6 months, or at the time it was about 4 months of work. I was like, are you positive? And they said, yes. So I hung up. I took my my apron off and I said, you know, this hamburger goes to table 4, this steak goes to table 8. And thank you so much for the job, but I'll see you later. And I never had to wait tables again. And just as a interesting side note, that very restaurant was next to a big theater in Westwood. And when Lethal Weapon 2 premiered, it premiered at that restaurant. So I mean at that theater next to the restaurant. So I was lucky enough to have stop in and say again to the guys, hey, thanks for letting me work here. But now I'm an actor. Fast forward to a lot of fun and great roles over time. And of course, Breaking Bad came along. An interesting story about Breaking Bad, I had auditioned for a pilot that was just a fantastic, one of the best pilots I'd ever read. And literally, and I was perfect for the role. And it was like a matriarchal Texas family, and the mother was going to be, God, I forgot who it was, but she had blonde hair, and I was going to be one of her sons, and it was looking so good. And this was like in September, and I got all the way to the final audition, and they decided to change the lead actress, and now she was going to have dark hair, and it just didn't make sense that I would have been her. They didn't like me enough, apparently, and I was just so devastated because it was like so perfect, and I was like, this is going to be the role that's going to change my life. That was in September. I was still depressed about it in October. Went through Thanksgiving still depressed about it. Went through Christmas still depressed about it. In January, I think January 4th or 5th, they sent me a script for Breaking Bad. And I read that and I say, oh my goodness, not only is this better than that other script, but the role is really my role. Had that pilot that I was so disappointed in not getting, had I got that pilot, I wouldn't have been available for Breaking Bad. Now that pilot, they filmed the pilot and it was never seen again. Nothing ever happened, but I would have missed my opportunity to be on Breaking Bad. So every time, and it's something you have to learn as an actor because it's tough, you have to persevere. Every time some door closes, it really does leave open the possibility that something else good can come along. And in my case, at that particular time, it was Breaking Bad that came along. That show has launched the career of literally hundreds of people in the business. And all because Vince Gilligan was a great leader and obviously very talented as a writer. And I could go on and on about that show. I don't know how much that experience is, but I guess from a leadership point of view, I learned a lot, not only from Vince Gilligan, but from Bryan Cranston as well. Those two really knew how to lead a show. I always thought Bryan Cranston was just the best. I mean, he led by example. In 6 years, I never was he late to set. In 6 years, he was always the first guy when they said ready to shoot. He was there and ready to go. And we all said, oh, well, if Bryan Cranston's there, we better get our butts moving. And I remember he would give us, he would write us an email every season at the start of the next season, said, hey guys, we had a great season. People were really loving it. Let's see if we can just up it a little bit, reach into your souls, reach into your hearts and find a way to up the performances just a little bit. And we got that version of that letter on the beginning of every season. Interesting enough, I'm in New Orleans right now doing a show, and I'm living in my fifth wheel because we have to social distance. And Bryan Cranston happens to be doing a show in New Orleans as well. So he came over a couple nights ago for some steak cookout, and we had a couple beers and reminisced about our time on Breaking Bad. Vince Gilligan hired Bryan Cranston because he was a great guy and a great actor. But he also, all the department heads he hired were great, and they were all passionate, and they were all inspired by Vince Gilligan. And that really, every one of those little things made that show the great show that it was. His leadership, Bryan Cranston's leadership, inspired the heads of all the other departments, inspired us all as actors to step our game up and do the best that we could. And we're left with, I'm a little biased, but arguably one of the greatest shows that was ever made for television. And that's how you get there, is that kind of leadership. I mean, I was making a living for a good 10 years as a working actor. But that meant I had to continuously get jobs and audition and get jobs. And I did pretty well doing that. But Breaking Bad was something in which all of a sudden now you were a regular on a TV show, which I hadn't been before. And it also became, in the business early on, a show that directors and producers really loved. And so now I was starting to get calls. I didn't have to audition. They would just call and say, will you be in our show? And that was a big, big change for a working actor like myself. And of course, after Breaking Bad, it was such an impactful show, not only culturally, but particularly in our business, that it launched my and everyone else's career into another level where there was no longer auditioning. It was just getting calls to do a job, which allowed me, by the way, to move to where I live, where I have a school now, because I didn't have to be in LA to audition. I didn't have to be in LA to work. I could live an hour and a half outside. I have 5 kids, so it made life a lot easier to be in a smaller town and give them kind of a normal life outside of Hollywood. And that's what Breaking Bad provided to me. After I made a little money, I felt that I wanted to find a way to kind of give back any way I could. And when I was in high school, we had a group called Beyond Our Control. And what it was a collection of high school kids from all the different high schools. And we put on a TV show. Now, this is before Saturday Night Live.
I am a waiter, you are a customer, maybe let's get this straight.
We had a slot on WNDU, Channel 16, at 6:30 to 7 o'clock on Sunday, which is basically just a dead time, and they allowed us to produce this show.
Once again, good triumphs over evil.
And from that little group came a guy named Larry Karaszewski, who is a big-time writer in Hollywood now, a guy named Daniel Waters, who wrote Heathers and Batman and all these other things, a guy named Dave Simpkins, who is also a big producer. And this is from a little town, South Bend, Indiana. And then myself came along, all because we got to work and were inspired and by this group. And a whole bunch of people across the nation who work in TV channels or TV networks and places in all kinds of different towns. So it really produced a lot of great talent. And I thought to myself, what can I do in my little community? I live in a small town outside of Los Angeles, about an hour and a half. And I said, what can I do that can help bring, that kind of experience to the kids around here? So my wife and I got together and we opened this Norris Performing Arts Center. Here we are 3 years later, and it's a huge, huge success. We have acting and dancing, and we even do some creative writing. We do some performance art, and of course, a lot of musical theater and stuff like that. But what we've given is the chance for kids who are losing a lot of this in schools, because the first thing that schools will cancel are the arts. They'll keep the football program going, but they'll cancel the acting, or they'll cancel the drama classes, and they'll cancel these things. So this is an alternative source for high school kids to learn these things. And I told my wife, look, they're so close, we're feeding into an industry that's gotten larger and larger and larger. It's important that these kids learn not only to be in front of the camera, but many of them ultimately behind the camera. And we can be that resource that teaches them these things, and they can go to Los Angeles and elsewhere and have careers in a business that, is one of the biggest, largest, important businesses in the United States of America. When I grew up, everyone was going to the auto manufacturing plants, which don't exist anymore, at least not where I live. And now they're going into the business of entertainment. I know that's a very important part of New Mexico these days, in Albuquerque, with the big studio there now. And it's really, really important to allow kids to have that training. And like I said, that's the first thing they cut out of school. No matter how much I may have had a dream to be a NBA player, I had no shot at doing that. So there is some degree at which you have to take what your dream is, and I never would discourage anybody, but you have to say, look, what is it that I can contribute to that cause, and is it reasonable that I could pursue that dream? Because it really always seems unreasonable to pursue your dreams. It certainly seemed unreasonable to me, a boy from South Bend, Indiana, who couldn't have been further from Hollywood, both culturally and in distance. But I did have, that dream, and I conditioned it. I said, well, let me go audition in New York. Let me see if I can get some stuff. Let me see if I can, and I got encouragement. I didn't get huge jobs right away, but I did get encouragement from people along the way. And I tried to stay as rational as I could and said, okay, I'm getting people who like me. I'm getting callbacks and auditions. I'm getting an agent. I'm getting the things. I'm taking each step along the way, and I'm trying to persevere. And as long as I keep advancing in some way, even if it's a small way, as long as I keep advancing, I feel that I'm doing the right thing. Also, it was really important to love what I did, because I wasn't looking at it as a means to become a famous actor. I just wanted to become a working actor. I wanted to become an actor who made a decent salary. And it became clear early on that I could do that. And that's when I was like, people were like, oh, it was Breaking Bad. Of course, Breaking Bad was a great job. But for me, the best jobs were the ones where I didn't have to wait tables anymore and I could be a working actor. Everything else has been gravy. So it's important to follow your dreams, but it's also important to be realistic. And it's important that you keep going through it. I mean, it's I mean, I look back and they were scary at times, but I look back now with really, really kind of, they were happy times because it was all exciting. And like I said, getting Lethal Weapon 2 was in a way more important to me than getting Breaking Bad because it turned me into a working actor. We packed up our stuff and literally came to New Mexico. We ended up living in a house in Corrales that was for rent. And I was like, wow, they had all this. I mean, it was a very typical, Southwest style house. And it was, had all this land, and it was a really, really fantastic time. I got this job, my family comes with us. And from that day on, we really became a part of New Mexico. We met great friends. And the show obviously kept going and kept going and kept going. I still have great friends there that I go visit all the time. And it truly is a land of enchantment. You understand why photographers, come to New Mexico. I remember the Sandia Mountains. We kind of looked out over it from Corrales. And it was like, just on a daily basis, I was like, what a beautiful, beautiful area. And, met some great people that like I said, I still know and continue to visit. I've visited there at least 5-6 times since the show's been over, and I'll continue to do that as well. So Albuquerque will always have a place in our heart. So it'll always be a part of my life. It'll always be a part of my kids' life, and appreciative that it was a town that accepted us and allowed us to thrive there. So. My mom was very Catholic, and I was raised as a Catholic who was taught to serve people, was taught to give back, and to take care of the least among us. So, and it really that was part of my again, like going back to my concern and worry about becoming an actor, because I felt I needed to take care of my parents and my family. And once I got to a position where I could take care of my parents, I did. And take care of my own family, I did. And then I realized, well, I've got this platform now, having done Breaking Bad, and it's kind of my duty, if you will, to do what you can do to help the community, because not everybody has that blessing. Not everybody has that opportunity where you go, boy, I know what it was like to not have resources, and now I do have resources. So let me help those who maybe don't have resources. And quite frankly, I try not to advertise it too much, but any kid that joins and they can't pay, I pay. I do this thing called Cameo now, in which I donate all the money from it to various causes. And one of them is kids who can't pay to go to our school. So, and there's quite a bit of them now with COVID. So it was too heartbreaking for them to go, oh, geez, I have to quit because I can't afford, whatever the tuition is. And so I have a fund now that I set up, and a lot of people have been using it. So it makes me feel good. And I look for more opportunities actually to help in the community, and over the next few years, try to find different things. I certainly think it's important to contribute right now to food banks. It's important to contribute to any organization, just like the Domestic Violence Resource Center, because during these COVID times, these quarantine times, all their paths to getting money are gone. I mean, all of these organizations that do so much good in the community, they depend on their galas and their thises and their that's to get the money they need to survive. So it's really, really important now, particularly now, it's always important, but particularly now, that you find a way to kind of dig into your heart and your wallet and contribute to something so important as this. And obviously, I'm sure you've all heard news reports that domestic violence, because so many people are home, has risen. So in a time when there's much greater need for resources, it's much harder to get those resources. So I hope that you can look at yourselves and say, hey, can I give some money to this great cause, and hopefully we can survive this. All right, so thank you for putting up with me and listening to my story. I hope it maybe inspired or motivated somebody. But really, what's important is that we need to come together as a community. And I do feel like I'm still a part of the Albuquerque, New Mexico community. We need to come together and dig deep and see if you can find a way to support this really, really worthy cause. And hey, let's get through this quarantine thing together. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you to our honorary New Mexican and great keynote speaker, Dean Norris, for those powerful words on leadership. We're grateful you're an advocate for the work of the Domestic Violence Resource Center. Now, let me just take a moment to say thank you to our judges for this year's DVRC Awards. I want to thank Ari V. Hill of Roof Care, Christine Glidden of Women to Be, Lori Roach of P&M Resources, and finally Jim Asperger of Crest Mechanical Systems. We couldn't have done it without you. We're grateful. Listen, now we've got a great opportunity to bring to you an incredible New Mexican who's a leading entrepreneur in social and digital marketing. Her name is Crystal Ciarza of Ciarza Social Digital. That's ciarza.com. Crystal is a great leader, but she's decided to pour her passion into the work of the DVRC, the Domestic Violence Resource Center. She's a great leader in the community, but specifically, she's leading this organization as its president. She's doing great work, she's a dear friend, and we're so glad that she's picked DVRC to make a difference. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Crystal to present this year's awards to these incredible recipients. Crystal, it's all yours.
Our first nominee has participated in volunteer events for over 40 years, and the common theme has always been helping others as a united team. Bobby K. Nelson has consistently brought people together to support the community. She started her own nonprofit devoted to bringing volunteers together to help children feel more confident at school by providing them clothes, shoes, and new underwear. As chair of for Making a Difference Day, Bobby K. harnessed almost 2,000 volunteers to help local various agencies through a variety of service projects. Her team's efforts were recognized by Paul Newman's Points of Light Foundation for the positive impact on the community. In addition, Bobby K. has served on the Animal Humane Society, Maggie's Giving Circle, as well as several economic boards in the community, and she also provides business advising services to startups and growing businesses around the state through NMSU's Arrowhead Business Center. Please help us congratulate Bobby K. Nelson.
Thank you so much for this award. As Crystal mentioned, giving back to my community has always been important to me. Seeing people work toward a common goal is something I cherish. DVRC helps so many people in our community. We are fortunate to have such committed and caring people in Albuquerque to help those who have experienced domestic violence. Again, thank you so much. I truly appreciate this and will treasure this award.
As we recognize outstanding community leaders who have made a positive impact, use their voice to uplift others who don't have a voice, or have made a significant contribution in fighting for human rights and change, our next honoree certainly fits the bill. From social work and support of foster kids with developmental disabilities, to grief and bereavement counseling, to working with the LGBTQ and transgender communities, to support of the local jazz community and aspiring musicians, Emerson Corley has given a voice to those who haven't had one. In addition, Emerson's jazz band called Entourage Jazz shares a message of hope, freedom, joy and spontaneity, and a message of diversity and authenticity through performances and fundraising events, including donating all of previous proceeds to DVRC for their performance at the Chemo Theater last year. Emerson has had a perfect blend of an open heart and an open mind in all endeavors. Please congratulate Emerson Corley.
Thank you so very much to the DVRC for this award and to my friend Denise Wilcox for nominating me for this honor. During these interesting times, I find that the psyche of our world is pulling me in different directions. Sometimes it's hard to figure out which direction is being most demanding, and it can feel incredibly overwhelming. But what I find is that in the midst of the struggle, there are usually some pretty clear answers waiting to reveal themselves. It's up to me to trust that they are there and to also trust that it's beneficial to listen to them. I am very fortunate to be in the midst of two amazing careers. I'm a clinical social worker in private practice, specializing in grief and bereavement work with an emphasis on working within the LGBTQ+ community. I'm also a jazz singer. I'm the band leader and lead singer for Entourage Jazz, a versatile ensemble that specializes in the jazz standards of the 40s and 50s. Because of my two careers, which also happens to be my two passions, I'm constantly given the opportunity to wear multiple hats and suits. So what happens in the midst of the two careers when one realizes their true authenticity? When the answer has been lying dormant within one's cautious self for decades, just waiting for the right time to reveal. A quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson propelled me from a life of intense internal struggle into a life of unsurpassed joy and the call to lead others in a similar position. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. We dare to be our truest sense of ourselves when the world around us has something else in mind. We demand the very best of ourselves while also understanding the need to be fully face grief and uncertainty. Within the struggle is where we usually find the parts of ourselves that inch forth with organic hope and a mirrored understanding of freedom to come. The DVRC has helped and led many a transgender person into the freedom to be our authentic selves at any cost. They have instilled strength and injected courage into clients who risk their lives on a daily basis just to be themselves, just to wear the clothing that speaks to us, just to wear the makeup that celebrates us, just to walk into the restroom that best represents us. To me, this is the audacity of hope in leadership. Thank you all so very much.
There's just not enough time to list all of the community activities that our next honoree has under her belt. But just to name a few, Mary Homan has umpired Little League games, serves as president of the Senior Women's Softball Association, aided in bringing the National Senior Games to Albuquerque last year. She's led Girl Scout troops and currently serves on the Girl Scouts of New Mexico Trails Board of Directors. And Mary Homan has been a trustee of the Village of Los Ranchos de Albuquerque for 16 years. She has worked with local chambers, economic development agencies, the New Mexico Partnership, and the National League of Cities to improve rules, regulations, and enticements on the local, state, and national fronts. Her passion and commitment to helping others through volunteering and making an impact on economic development in New Mexico is absolutely worth of being recognized. So please help us congratulate Mary Homan.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely honored to be receiving the Community Leadership Award. When Barbara Lopez, the Domestic Violence and Community Resource Center advocate, emailed me to tell me that I had been nominated for this distinguished award, I was honored and excited. And later, when I received a call from her announcing that I was going to be an award recipient, I was floored. Being considered among this crowd of distinguished nominees, individuals that I've looked up to for their accomplishments and their contributions to the community, had me speechless and humbled. I've always been a giving individual. I love giving back to the community and working with the community. Even as a child, I enjoyed this. And as an adult, I've tried to enlist and instill this value in my children and grandchildren. My parents were giving individuals, and I had teachers, Girl Scout leaders, co-workers, and mentors that joined me and shared in this kind of passion throughout my life. Leadership organizations like the Girl Scouts, Leadership New Mexico, Albuquerque, and Sandoval County, as well as the municipal equivalent, which is the Municipal Leadership Institute, showed me new areas of the state and organizations that are giving to the individuals out there and meeting the needs of their communities. These organizations, some of them are wanting still and have needs. And this is where we can all lend a helping hand. Putting the puzzle pieces together, connecting people with their needed support systems is an overwhelming task, and more is needed, both physical and financial. And together we can help meet these needs. Growing and thriving is what I want for each of us, for our city, for our state, country, and even in the world. I hope that I have personally contributed to the success of our community, and I hope that I have left a positive impact on somebody's life. Each of us have something we can give and offer to others. By using our voices and actions, we can help uplift others by sharing a skill, mentoring a youth, or even a young colleague that we have, gathering a group of friends to work on a project or a community need, or even leading a community. Thinking beyond oneself and truly looking around the needs that are around you in your community is what we all need to do. I want to thank the Domestic Violence Resource Center for hosting this leadership award. Over the last 8 years, DVRC has recognized an incredible group of people and highlighted the wonderful projects that they've done throughout the state. It's fitting that DVRC host a leadership award, as it's through their leadership and mission to support others and help with the prevention of abuse and promote that prevention that we can hope to break the cycle of abuse and empower the victims. I accept this award on behalf of myself and all of those that have supported me, for my coworkers and friends that have joined me in so many projects supporting so many organizations, for those that mentored me and those that introduced me to great nonprofits, to my husband and family that supported me through all of these endeavors, to Denise Wilcox for nominating me, Becky Teague, Tommy Sanders, and Tom Dome for supporting that nomination, and for Gas Company of New Mexico for allowing me to serve in the role of Economic Development and Community Affairs Manager. This is a position that feeds my giving spirit and a job that nurtures my belief in supporting the community and working for the greater good. Finally, I want to thank the awards committee for their trust and confidence in me in providing this award. I proudly accept this award and ask that you join me in celebrating this accomplishment and the empowerment. And please, let's all work together to build a better future, one positive action at a time. Thank you all, and God bless you.
Our next award winner has 33 years of experience in the nonprofit sector, including 13 years of experience with the United Way. In his short time in New Mexico, Rodney Prunty has already had a huge effect. United Way of Central New Mexico exceeded its 2019 campaign goal and established a place-based collective impact initiative with the engagement of community residents in Albuquerque's most challenged neighborhoods. In addition, Rodney led efforts to raise over $1.1 million in COVID-19 relief, which were distributed to over 100 nonprofit organizations that serve people in need. Rodney is currently partnering with the Albuquerque Community Foundation on a new effort called Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion United. And this project is to engage the community with conversations to share the concerns, hopes, aspirations of people of color and organizations that serve them regarding the systematic inequalities that exist in central New Mexico. It also provides leadership pathways in philanthropy and nonprofit, and it brings cross-sector DEI training to leaders to help them inform them of their own diversity, equity, and inclusion practices. So please help me congratulate Rodney Prunty.
I want to thank the DVRC for awarding me this great honor, the Community Leader Award. I'm truly humbled by this recognition. Firstly, I want to thank my wife and family for supporting me throughout my career, and of course, my mother, who made me the man that I am today. I also want to thank the United Way of Central New Mexico Board for their support and belief in me to take a chance on this guy from the Midwest 15 months ago, and offering me the opportunity to work in such a beautiful community filled with so much promise. I also want to thank the United Way of Central New Mexico team, who have shown tremendous resolve and determination to support Central New Mexico through these challenging times. I'm more than fortunate to be part of an organization filled with so many passionate, dedicated community servants. In that same spirit, I've always believed that to lead is to serve. I realized years ago that becoming a leader makes it no longer about you, but the people in your organization. It's about how you can help them be the best that they can be and support them to achieve their goals and their aspirations, to make sure that they are essentially better than when they got to the organization. That is the true testament, in my estimation, of a leader, his or her ability to make those around them better. I also derive genuine satisfaction and joy when people are able to grow and to progress in their careers. The most important work that we do at United Way of Central New Mexico is turning outward into our community and addressing our greatest challenges together. It's inherent in our name, United Way. Now, I mentioned my mother earlier, and she was such a strong influence in my life. She raised me to see the world as it should be, not as it is. And this worldview has helped guide and catalyze me throughout my career. It's the promise of what can be, and working together with people from all walks of life to create long-term community change. Those are the things that energize me. There's nothing more powerful than when individuals and organizations come together to achieve what was only a possibility in the minds of people previously. That's what community is all about. Challenges will always remain, but I believe together we can and we will make a better future for our children and our families in Central New Mexico. So again, I say thank you to the DVRC for this distinguished recognition. I look forward to the work that we'll continue to do together to make our community a better place to live for us all. Thank you.
On behalf of the Domestic Violence Resource Center, it is my honor to present the Purple Ribbon Award winners. This has been a long-standing tradition within the Domestic Violence Resource Center because this award is actually decided upon by the staff and the directors of the organization. We've had some great people receiving this award, including a posthumous award from our previous executive director who passed away in office, to board members for exemplary work, to even state senators that helped change laws to progress forward the changes of breaking the cycle in domestic violence. This year, one award is going to be given to one individual who has generously and tirelessly advocated for DVRC within our community. Another award is going to be given to an individual who advocates for financial independence for DV victims. These two individuals have made a significant impact within the organization, and most importantly, they advocate for domestic violence victims in Albuquerque. Pamela Herndon currently serves as the president and CEO of KWH Law Center for Social Justice and Change, a nonprofit law center focused on providing access for justice for low and medium income individuals with an emphasis on advocating for the rights of women, children, and families with children. Pamela is a 2019 to 2021 W.K. Kellogg Fellow, and she serves as secretary of the board for the U.S. Eagle Federal Credit Union and as the first vice president of the NAACP Albuquerque branch. In August of 2020, she was elected to serve a 3-year term as a member of the Council of the American Bar Association's Civil Rights and Social Justice section. In addition, she has been appointed as a commissioner to the American Bar Association Commission on Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault. Pamela was instrumental in the establishment of the Credit Union Survivor Alliance for Financial Empowerment, or CU SAFE. This is a program whose mission is to provide financial resources to survivors of domestic violence at an affordable interest rate, together with systematic support in other areas when needed to help survivors move their lives forward without abuse. Pamela has been recognized as the Public Lawyer of the Year by the Public Law section of the New Mexico State Bar, as the Lawyer of the Year by the American Bar Association, and she has been featured in Essence Magazine, an international publication, as one of the outstanding lawyers providing policy and advocacy legal services to low-income individuals. Pamela occasionally hosts community-focused programs on KUNM Public Radio, an NPR affiliate in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Please help us congratulate Pamela Herndon.
Good afternoon to the Board of Directors of the Domestic Violence Resource Center, the DVRC staff, and the members of the Leadership and Awards Committee. I'm extremely honored and humbled to be the recipient of the DVRC Purple Ribbon Award. Over the past years, I have dedicated many hours seeking ways to provide survivors of domestic violence with access to financial resources with reasonable rates to help them live their lives without abuse, fear, or intimidation when they are ready to do so. Those efforts all came together this year when Rio Grande and U.S. Eagle Federal Credit Unions joined together to form CU SAFE, a program of Survivor Alliance for Financial Empowerment. CU SAFE not only provides survivors with access to financial resources, it is a program that's intended to help pave the way for dreams that may have been deferred by the barriers of domestic violence. A program intended to provide access to pro bono attorneys when the need arises, to provide access to apprenticeship programs, quality affordable housing, and to behavioral health for those services to make sure that the years of abuse have been eliminated. Mike Athens, the CEO of Rio Grande Credit Union, and Marcia Majors, the CEO of U.S. Eagle, together with Vince Galbanati, who leads DVRC, and Walt Aegis, the CEO of CU Soul, are community leaders who join with me in seeing the vision for providing innovative support for survivors of domestic violence, together with their staff who had an incredible passion for helping survivors of domestic violence. These were people like Michelle Tafoya, Henna Torres, Nadine Berga, Jeff Kane, Annalise Ford, and others. So here we are in the month of October, the month in which we raise awareness for domestic violence in a state where we are either number 1 or number 3 with the highest rate of domestic violence in the entire country. But we are showing the rest of the country how the power of collaboration provides a blueprint of success in raising the well-being of survivors and their families. The poet Griti Sanon, in writing about domestic violence, stated, "I want someone to teach my heart to beat again. I want someone special who can kiss away the pain. And then Lynette Goodwin wrote A New Dawn Brings Hope and Peace of Happiness, along with grace. The See You Safe program has the ability to kiss away the pain of domestic violence while bringing hope, happiness, and grace into the lives of survivors. So thank you once again for the honor of receiving the Purple Ribbon Award, and I accept it on behalf of everyone who is working to lift survivors permanently out of the trenches of domestic violence.
Mary Ellen Garcia is the Grants Bureau Chief for the New Mexico Crime Victims Reparation Commission, CVRC, administering state funds to support survivor services, as well as federal funds from VOCA Victim Assistance, Stop VAWA, NASP, and other federal discretionary funds. Prior to her work with the Commission, Ms. Garcia administered discretionary grants from the Office of Violence Against Women, including projects that develop best practices for access, issuance and enforcement of orders of protection, and a statewide domestic and dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, strangulation, and child victimization project. She started her career in victim services as a volunteer with the nonprofit Law Enforcement-Based Victim Advocate Program. She worked as a crisis negotiator for law enforcement and developed a law enforcement crisis outreach and support team focused on providing access to families whose loved ones are experiencing mental illness. Ms. Garcia has worked on several projects at the state, local, and national level to improve the provision for survivors of crime. She has also worked and collaborated with the Vera Institute, Asian Pacific Institute on Gender-Based Violence, Casa de Esperanza, the Women of Color Network, the Office on Violence Against Women, the Office for Victims of Crime, and numerous other state and national programs to address language access, improving access to survivors in underserved communities, improve the delivery of services, creating sustainable funding, and various other initiatives addressing violence in our communities. She has worked with governmental and non-governmental victim service agencies around the state in either training, providing services, development of practices in serving victims, program development and leadership within New Mexico for over 20 years. So please help us congratulate Mary Ellen Garcia.
Thank you so much, Christelle. I am humbled and honored to stand here today and share this small message of deepest appreciation and gratitude towards DVRC and its leadership for being recognized. But I'd also like to start by acknowledging these strange times that we are living. This time last year, we would have all been sitting around a table, breaking bread with one another, and laughing about our day, sharing stories of strength, resilience, and deepest sorrow for the work that we do. And what a difference a year can make. Over the past 7 months, we've learned to pivot, to wear our masks, to reassess the way in which we deliver services, and to reevaluate all of the work that we're doing to ensure that survivors of crime have access to services within our communities. I'd like to recognize all of our victim service programs across the state who are doing phenomenal work during extraordinary and unprecedented times. I'd like to thank you for this recognition and say that it's a true reflection of the amazing team at the Crime Victims Reparation Commission. Our collective we, our director and our leadership under Director Zubia, our compensation department under Moises Valdez, our CFO Cindy Mock, my amazing grants team, and the true collective we, all of the stakeholders who deliver services within our communities, the New Mexico Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the New Mexico Coalition of Sexual Assault Programs, our Coalition to Stop Violence Against Native Women, and all of our victim services programs across the state are doing amazing work. I stand here to say thank you. I have been surrounded by amazing mentors. I started this work 20 years ago as an advocate for this very organization. And to be part of this collective group of individuals is just an honor. I stand in humble awe of all of the work that they do. I want to again say thank you, and thank you to my amazing team for all of the work. This is a true reflection of all of the amazing people who wake up every day to ensure that victims of crime in our state have access to services and that we can truly help our communities heal. Again, thank you.
Vince, On behalf of the board of directors, thank you so much for everything that you and the staff do for DVRC. Sometimes, you know, the public, community supporters, sometimes even boards of directors don't exactly know the numbers, right? The number of calls, what had happened during COVID. Can you kind of run us through just a general overview of what has happened in the last 6 months?
It's going to be a little gruesome. The number of calls that Bernalillo County receives is over 20,000, and that's before COVID. Since COVID, DVRC will handle anywhere between 25 and 40 calls nominally during the day. And then at peak of the COVID, we were experiencing between 65 and 80 calls a day. That translates to over 15,000 calls that DVRC by itself will receive. I don't think it gives enough dimension to the community about how constantly we are called in the severity and the brutality of these instances. And when DVRC answers these calls, we have an opportunity to redirect them to our sister organizations or absorb them within our own organization. DVRC by ourselves will help over 6,000 victims this year. And the tragedy of our situation is that we are only able to provide services for less than half of the calls that we receive. To call this another epidemic would not be wrong. The tragedy of our community is that the domestic violence incidents are so continuous, so voluminous, and so brutal.
Can you talk about our staff for a little bit? You know, our directors, our advocates, our counseling. I'm going a little impromptu because I want people to see who are the people that are really I call them the second responders, right? You know, we have our police, we have our firefighters, but talk about the staff, like the people that you see every day.
It's pretty amazing to watch this particular group of people work seamlessly and interdependently. DVRC has 4 operating units. We have advocacy, we have case management, we have counseling, and we also have an education department. And it fits in very squarely with what we concentrate on for intervention and prevention, recovery, and education.
You know, we've been so lucky as a board to be volunteers of this great organization, and we've seen so many other communities of business people getting involved, or people that are civic organizations getting involved with DVRC. And I think the common thread between all of us is that, you know, though we're involved in the community, we might be volunteering for other nonprofits, there's something really unique about DVRC. In your opinion, what is really unique about this organization?
I would say, without hesitation, where we are incredibly unique is that our advocates will go to crime scene. We're the only organization that does that as a partner to police enforcement. And it doesn't leave behind our other sister organizations, such as Rape Crisis and SANE and New Mexico Legal Aid. That's not to say that at all. But the bravery of these people, I cannot describe what it would take for any one of us to go onto a crime scene and do what our advocates do. DVRC is incredibly unique in our commitment to the community to be able to engage victims at their most vulnerable.
Talk about that though, and I think that's the part that we see so many different nonprofits that talk about metrics of success, and it's very difficult to measure success in breaking the cycle of domestic violence, but I think we've successfully proven that metric. And can you explain a little bit about the return rate, or you use a certain term within DVRC?
Yeah, actually we measure off of victims returning to our service, or recidivism, and then post-surveillance. If we can engage a victim on the crime scene and bring him into the full scope of services for DVRC, that means they're receiving long-term care through case management and counseling. We have in the 90th percentile to remove a victim from their abuser permanently. We know our model works. We know it's successful. Our obligation at this point is to grow the model and to grow DVRC.
So that brings us to the most important part and part of the history behind the DVRC leadership event, engaging the rest of the community into this organization. So briefly describe, some of the things that we as a board, we as a or you as a staff, all of us within the DVRC umbrella, talk about the concern for funding.
DVRC is a relatively small organization. Our budget is a little over $1 million, but our ambition and our need for the community, it's essential that we grow. And we can't grow without our community partners. Our inspiration is to double the size of DVRC before the end of our fiscal year, and that means also doubling the size of our budget. The quantity of services that I described earlier is that if we help 6,000 victims, it means that we're not helping 6,000 others. And we don't know where they end up. That's to be honest. Our suspicions are confirmed on some cases that they will go back to their offenders because they have no other choice. We look at our community to say that nobody should be abused. Nobody should be hurt. Nobody should be attacked. Nobody should go to bed being afraid. It's so essential that our community understands this dynamic, but also understands that the growth of DVRC is essential for the community of Albuquerque to break the cycle of domestic violence permanently.
So right now our operating budget is roughly at about just shy of $1 million, and that was made roughly before the pandemic could have ever been a thing, right? And so obviously we're knowing that we have growth, and I'm proud of the milestones that the organization has made in terms of participating in the Albuquerque Domestic Violence Task Force with the mayor and city of Albuquerque, Rape Crisis Center, working with those sister organizations, SANE, Safe House, etc. But what do we as an organization need today to continue those relationships and continue serving our victims?
Immodestly, I say that we need additional funding. We need a lot more funding. If we're going to grow into the organization that really provides systemic change for Albuquerque, our funding needs, I won't say they're endless. It feels that way. But we do need to double the size of the organization, not just to meet what's happening right now in a COVID environment, but what was happening before. Our educational services, they need to grow. We need to understand the dynamics as a community of domestic violence to begin to do more to prevent it. And then once it happens, is that how to deliver more services more efficiently and with greater responsibility to the community.
So 3 things that people can do to donate include being a part of the Community Partnership Program, which is a new program for companies to participate in, a GoFundMe account, correct?
Correct.
And any other things I might be missing that if anybody wanted to donate or participate or get involved with DVRC?
There's a variety of channels that we're using. This event that recognizes leadership also recognizes their leadership to be ambassadors of DVRC, to bring this message to the community and to evoke the community's understanding and also their financial support for us to get larger. We participate in a lot of other organizations' strategic planning, including the city, including the county. We develop our own programs. One of them is the DVRC SAFE program, where restaurants and bars are beginning to recognize our logo and display it in their windows with the understanding that if you enter this bar or restaurant, that we are sensitive or they are sensitive to instances of domestic violence. And we deliver safe cards, which is a very quiet means of witnessing domestic violence and providing a means for contact. We're so proud of what we're doing in the community to not only be good ambassadors for ourselves, but to participate in the common desire to end domestic violence.
So together, we can do so much more to end domestic violence in our community. And thank you, Vince, for not only your leadership, and to the staff for their endless support and their tireless amount of work to our victims. But we thank you. We thank you for joining us. To Michelle Otero for reading today and being our Poet Laureate. Thanks again to Dean Norris for his amazing presentation to our leadership event. And as always, thank you to our State Auditor of New Mexico, Brian Colon, for emceeing today's event. And thanks to our sponsors, both in kind and in their financial contributions as community partners to our organization. Congratulations to the Community Leader Awards, the Purple Ribbon Awards that have made significant contributions in breaking this cycle of domestic violence, and our other speakers. So thank you all. We hope that you would make a contribution to DVRC at dvrcnm.org.